I'm the coach who cut Michael as a sophomore. We didn't think he was good enough yet to really make the contribution on the varsity that we felt we needed.
And I told him to go into math, that that's where the money was.
But my goodness, I don't think I ever imagined that he's like a Michael Jackson.
Now CBS Fox and NBA Entertainment present the thriller of sports videos. Michael Jordan, come fly with me. You've never seen anyone like him before. Michael Jordan, unquestionably the most exciting athlete in the world today. Cut from his high school basketball team, Michael Jordan went on to become a sensation in college. Leader of the 1984 gold medal Olympic team, 1985 NBA Rookie of the Year, 1987 and 88 leading scorer, 1988 most valuable player. And now everyone can see Michael Jordan at his greatest on an incredible new home video. Come Fly With Me features Michael Jordan's complete life story, revealed for the first time in exclusive interviews and footage. Rare highlights of Michael's college career. Spectacular plays from his NBA career.
Jordan on the drive, balls down underneath. Oh, the left side.
Michael at home. On the golf course. And in the air.
Goes up in the air. Now he's sideways. Look at the air. Look at the hang time. Look at the flying motion.
You'll see slam dunks and gravity-defying shots galore. Come Fly With Me, an original home video program that tells the whole Michael Jordan story. Over 40 minutes of breathtaking highlights that every basketball fan will want to own. Michael Jordan, Come Fly With Me. One giant leap for video sports.
I want you to take a trip with me and discover the secrets that I've known for many years. That man was truly destined to fly.
tonight's guest of honor. In his unprecedented 20th and final NBA season, six-time NBA Most Valuable Player, six-time member of NBA championship teams, the greatest scorer in the history of the NBA. Let's say thanks for all his contributions to the game with one last Madison Square Garden salute to the master of the skyhook, future Hall of Famer Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Every time that he is out there in the center being honored, I'm going to visualize about all those wonderful moments back in the last 10 years that we've been together, that he has won games for us, that there's been tremendous emotion, celebration, pain, all of those things. I think that's what's going to be very difficult for all of us to take, is that we're going to lose the luster of his greatness.
He has developed his game with his sky hook and his mental being and his presence on the court and really knowing the game of basketball inside, which enabled him to stay out there and play, even at, 41 years old?
I think he caused more problems to the other team, to the opponent as a whole, at each end of the court, both offensively and defensively, than any player that's ever played.
I just thank him for all the moments, because it's been great. You've hugged, you cried, you celebrated, you went through defeats, you went through wins, you rode through the parades, the record-breaking achievements that he's accomplished. And I think that the thing that you always say, that you never thought it would end.
I feel that it was very fitting that the farewell tour began in New York, because that's where my life began, and that's where I learned how to play basketball. When I was born, my name was Ferdinand Louis Alcindor, and we were living on 111th Street in Harlem. When I was 3.5 years old, we moved out of Harlem, right to the northern end of Manhattan, to a place called Inwood. Well, this is the building I was raised in. We lived here from when I was 3 years old until I was 19. There were all different types of ethnic groups. I got to play with kids of every description, and it was a very family kind of place. I always felt that at home here.
He was always happy. He enjoyed his goings-on, what things he did, playing ball, going to school and all of those things. He enjoyed it. And his toys, his electric trains and other stuff like that, he enjoyed those things. And he liked to put his nose in books all the time also.
This is PS 52. This is where I first started going to elementary school, and it's the first place that I picked up a basketball and tried to throw it in the hoop. They had a summer activities program here, and I'd come in the gym. The gym is right down here on the ground floor, and I try to throw the ball in the hoop. I had absolutely no upper body strength. It was very difficult for me even to get the ball over my head, but I would try day in and day out to get one through, and every so often I'd bang one off the backboard, and somehow miraculously it would go in the rim. This is the Battlegrounds. We're at about 152nd Street and Amsterdam Avenue in Manhattan, and this is where I first really started playing competitive basketball with the guys in the neighborhood. It's kind of like, I don't know, the front pool table in a pool hall, so to speak, in that, a lot of people would come by here and watch us as we played, and things got very competitive. And I'd learned how to really just try and win every time, and it was very important to look good out here in front of all the folks, and this was just our little place where we competed. I think it got the name the Battlegrounds from the fact that in those old gang war days, there was 1 or 2 gang fights in here, and it got the name the Battlegrounds, and that name stuck from that point on. Being a baseball fan in my part of Manhattan was quite common, but being a Dodger fan was not common. I lived right near the Polo Grounds in Yankee Stadium, and I was a Dodger fan, which meant I had to take a whole lot of crap from a whole lot of people, but I endured it. I really got to
get into the Dodger mystique because of Jackie Robinson and just all the courage and competitiveness that he showed. I think his competitive style really affects me to this day insofar as he was always very quiet and contained. But inside he was totally concentrated and very competitive. You could feel it coming off of him, but he never gave into any outward displays of anger or passion. He was always had it all under wraps.
It was here at St. Jude's that I really first became aware of myself as a black person. It was kind of a situation where we had one of the kids in school had a Polaroid camera and brought it to class and took a picture of all the kids standing in the back of the classroom. And it was then that I realized that I was the only black kid. Up until then, I felt like just one of everyone else, but from that picture I realized I didn't look like everybody else, and it kind of stuck with me.
As I progressed through grade school, the civil rights movement started to become a really serious issue. As time went on, I became more and more conscious of racial things.
Began to understand, this is something that we got to deal with. We can't run away from it. And I think he learned a lot about what was happening with all the kids, all over America, not just in New York. He found out that it was happening everywhere, and whether it was happening for the better. Things did get better.
This classroom is the classroom that I had for the 6th grade, and it was taught to us by Sister Mary Sebastian. I remember one of the students, Michael Farrell, got real snotty with her, and she had to punch him out. And I remember I got great grades in conduct for that year. There's no way we were going to cross her up. Well, this is where I spent the 7th grade. And it seems that somebody has my seat because this was my spot in the 7th grade. Right exactly here. And I would sit back here and try to pay attention and not get in trouble. I guess I did all right. This is the gym that I played basketball in when I was in elementary school. And it was on this court that I got my first dunk shot. I think I was in the 8th grade, early in the 8th grade. I had a game and our guard, Patrick Doris, flipped me a real nice pass on the fast break, and I was able to jam it. I think I was shocked as much as everyone else, but it was quite an experience. It's something I still remember very vividly today. We'd push all the chairs out of the way and practice after school, and then sometimes you'd have to push the chairs back. The custodian, Mr. Kelly, used to let me come in and practice a little bit because he knew I'd be conscientious about getting the chairs back in place and not screwing up the arrangement for mass, because they had to use the gym for mass, bingo, and any other activities, school assemblies and stuff like that. But it was all right here in this gym, and it's really neat coming back and seeing that it's pretty much in the same shape. I wore number 33 because that was a number that one of my favorite football players, Mel Triplett of the New York Giants, he wore number 33. And when we got our new uniforms, I decided that would be my number. And also my mother felt it was a good number according to her mystical numerology. She figured that would be a good number for me to wear. When I got to be about 6'8" in the 8th grade, basketball seemed to be the right sport for me just because of my physical gifts. And it kept on getting more obvious as I grew taller in the 9th grade, where I went up to 6'11". As I grew taller and taller, I really became a lot more withdrawn because people started to approach me just to ask me how tall I was, or people who knew anything about basketball began to realize that I might be a talented player. And I had people that I didn't know, perfect strangers, expressing an interest or asking a question, and it really put me on kind of a defensive frame of mind, and I really started to withdraw within myself a lot more so than I had when I was younger, and that wasn't a real big part of my life.
Yes, he said, why did he have to grow so fast? And I said, well, I grew fast like that when I was growing up, and it was hard on me. So I knew how hard it was on him, because it was real hard on me, and I was a girl, you know. So I tried to explain to him that this happens, you know, we have no control over it. And he has to appreciate himself the way he is, you know, be proud of his height and to stand up straight. You know, I always emphasize on that because somebody didn't do it with me, and I did it with him. You know, I made sure that he would walk tall.
In the summer between my freshman and sophomore years, I did a lot of improving. The next thing you know, we were picked to do well. Nobody knew how well. We played in a postseason tournament. In my freshman year, we won that tournament. I think we won 6 games in that tournament to win it. And then from that point on, we won 71 straight games through my sophomore, junior, and senior year, terminating with a loss to DeMatha in my senior year. I went to UCLA because I felt that they had a great basketball program. The fact that John Wooden had led his team to 2 NCAA championships had a serious effect on me. I knew it was a good academic institution, and I wanted to get away from New York and be away from parental supervision and be out on my own. We opened up Pauley Pavilion. We played the first game there. It was a game between the freshman team and the varsity team. The varsity team was the defending national champions and ranked number 1 in the country, and we beat them by 15 points. And it ended up where the varsity was number 1 in the country and number 2 on campus.
Well, the freshmen were too much for the varsity, and here's the reason, of course, right here. There was no question in my mind that if I'd so desired, that we could have devised our offense and worked around Kareem, and I feel to this day that we could have worked it out where in college he could have scored 50 points a ball game. But had we done that, we wouldn't have won 3 national championships. I feel confident of that.
It's not often number 1 and number 2 meet twice in the same season, but Johnny Wooden's UCLA Bruins, number 2, have a second chance. Houston claimed the top spot from UCLA 2 months ago.
It's the first time anybody had conceived of playing a game in a baseball arena, and it had been sold out. I mean, all the forces leading up to us going down there and taking that really promoted it, in my mind, as being the one thing I really wanted to do.
The heralded match of the sport's 2 giants was tainted. Al Cinders, suffering from an injury to his left eye, missed many shots he usually made.
The injury happened when we were playing Cal. Came down a rebound, somebody stuck their finger in my eye, and I was really injured. I had to come, we came back, I had to check into the Jewel Stein Eye Clinic and just stay in there. And I was in there on my back for close to a week before we left to go to Houston, and I was in no condition physically to play.
I think in the 87 games in which Kareem played, that he made at least half his shots, and in that one I think he made something like 5 out of 17 or something like that, and way off. It's the only game of that type that he had in his entire time at UCLA. So it had to have some effect, but that's no excuse. We still could have won the ball game. We made a misplay right at the very last that we made, and it would have given us a chance to win the ball game. And Hayes, Elvin Hayes, probably had one of the great games of his career at any time. He did have a great game against him, but down in my own mind, I felt confident that if we played him again, and I also felt confident that we would play him again when he got to the NCAA tournament, that we would not have a great deal of trouble with him.
Hayes finished the season averaging 38 points a game, while leading Houston to a 31-0 record. But of even more significance is the fact that Lou Alcindor is healthy. The Bruins vowed to reverse their only loss in 2 years and prove that the honors heaped on Houston were premature. The Cougars quickly realized that this is a different Lou Alcindor than the one they controlled in the Astrodome. But Houston lacked the consistency they had in the Astrodome. And right in the middle of their problems is Lou Alcindor. Alcindor surrounded by white shirts. Unstoppable.
I think we led them by something like 44 points early in the second half.
For the rest of the year, Houston was ranked number one, and we were. No one gave us a chance of beating them again, and we felt that we were definitely the better team, and we really enjoyed getting the chance to prove it.
We would have been disappointed if we hadn't got to play them again, wouldn't we?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
In the 3 years that Wooden coached Alcindor, the Bruins won 88 games while losing only 2, and did what no team had done before. They won 3 consecutive national championships. On each occasion, Big Lou had been chosen the tournament's most valuable player, another first.
Well, I've often said, I think Kareem taught me many things that were more important really than just basketball really, and I learned basketball from him too, as all coaches learn from their players, I'm certain.
I think I was fortunate to be able to be with Coach Wooden and see the success that he had as a person. I'm not talking about wins and losses, but as a man trying to live, I definitely am enriched by my association with Coach, and I've thanked him for that before, and I'll do that again. For me, the most significant change I had to make in adjusting to the pros was just the physical nature of the game and the demands that it made on you as far as traveling. You had to get up and go places and play basketball games just about every day. And that really takes its toll on you, just having to physically relocate yourself. And you're playing against mature men instead of college guys who are just really coming out of adolescence, playing against mature men. I think those were the really key changes that I experienced.
Well, I think anytime a young heralded rookie comes into the league, you're really going to pay tremendous attention what they can do individually, what you see in them for the future. And with him, it was almost instant. You knew this guy was going to be good. I think the thing that was so obvious about him is just how darn big he really was. And when you're out there, you were almost mesmerized by his incredible grace. I mean, he did things that not many big people would actually do. And those were the things that really that carried him and made him the incredible player that he was during his career.
The centers that really were promoted against me and everything was written about would have been Willis Reed and Wilt Chamberlain, because their teams were the teams that the Bucks had to beat to make it all the way.
I think the most dominant player I've ever seen was Chamberlain, in the sense of what he could do during one particular basketball game. The player that I always felt that had the most impact on a lot of games was Russell. Those were the people I played against a lot and saw a lot. But I think the one thing about Kareem that really made you think that somewhere that he was a combination of those two people was the fact that he did something of all of those people. He was an incredible force offensively. Not only his ability to shoot the ball, but his ability to pass a basketball. He had a great command of the game. He was more nimble than those other two players.
Kareem is a finesse basketball player, and I think he's that way because of what happened to him in college. They outlawed the dunk. So therefore, he had to develop a style of game where he could be successful playing in this style of basketball. And he was a target. He had to be very careful not to foul. Anytime he got close to someone in college, they were going to call a foul. This is the way he developed his game.
Well, when I heard that Oscar was coming to play with the Bucks, I was very happy. I thought that we have somebody that could run the offense and give us a legitimate scorer and passer back there in his position. Oscar's approach to the game was one of just being able to take advantage of whatever you gave him. If you tried to overplay him to one side, he'd go to the side that you gave him and just get inside of you and get you out of position. That's all he wanted to do, was get you out of position and off balance. Our team in Milwaukee really made use of the running game. Oscar was able to direct us, and we had some very fast guys playing key positions. We had Greg Smith and Bob Dandridge as our starting forwards, and both of those guys were really relentless runners. And I was able to be very mobile center and run the court. And when we needed to set a half-court game up, I was used in that. I played the setup game really well too. So it really gave us a versatility that was very hard to compete against. I think that's one of the key factors in our winning the World Championship.
It meant a lot not only for myself, but the other guys on the team as well. This was their first championship, also the first championship for Milwaukee.
After the game, we got together with the guys on the team, and we were all real happy. It was a very special moment. My conversion to Islam was actually in 1968. That's when I took those names, but I didn't legally go through the process of changing it until 1971.
Well, I felt a little bad about it, because that was the family name, and that's what was the name I gave him, and I didn't think he should have changed it. But he didn't feel that way about it, and I told him I would never use the name unless he did it legally. So he didn't do it until he was 21, and then he changed it legally. And so I started calling him Kareem. But before then, I only called him Lou.
Yeah, we were very unhappy about it. It took me a long time to get, reconciled to it. But it was his decision, and he seemed to feel that this was the right thing for him to do in his life. So we didn't put any opposition to it that much. But it took a long time to get accustomed to it. Now there's no problem.
And during that time, there was a lot of still black-white resentment about certain things, and they felt Kareem was betraying them to a certain extent. But here again, it was his decision to do. I'm sure he thought about it for many, many years about the situation. And I think in our country, a person has a right to make those decisions about whether you're going to change your name. I don't think it's hurt him quite a bit. I think, as a matter of fact, I think it probably made him a better person because this is what he really felt inside he wanted to do. And this was his religion.
Kareem and Jabbar are attributes of the Supreme Being. Kareem being noble or generous, and Jabbar being powerful. And you use Abdul with that to show that you serve the Creator and you do not put yourself on that same level. So that means I am a generous, powerful servant of the Supreme Being. The playoffs in 1974 ended up being very closely contested. It came down to where we were down 3-2 and playing in Boston Garden there, the sixth game, and we were trying to pull it out. The game went to 1 overtime, and then it went to 2 overtimes. And within the overtime, every time the ball changed hands, the other team scored. So no team really got more than like 2 or 3 points ahead throughout the whole overtime. I think it was like a 1-point game with us ahead, and John Havlicek came down and hit a shot, really key shot, with less than half a minute to go in the game. And we called the play to set up John McLaughlin for a shot. That didn't work. I had to come out to past the free throw line area, I drove down to the baseline. I shot a hook shot from about 18 feet. It was really an incredible victory for us because we were supposed to lose there in Boston Garden. And I remember that night after the game, I couldn't sleep. I didn't sleep the whole night. I got on the plane, I hadn't been to sleep at all. And we lost the 7th game, but that really was a great victory for us. I headed for Los Angeles. I'm very glad that I made that decision. It's the first one I made for my own good that ended up being the right thing. Instead of me second-guessing myself, I went with it, and I'm very happy with it.
I thought that he would be able to let this franchise still have some of the glamour that it had, but his first 2 years here were disappointing because of the surrounding cast.
The first pick is the Los Angeles Lakers. The Los Angeles Lakers select Earvin Magic Johnson, Michigan State, 6'8", 200 pounds.
I got to the camp finally, and here's this man who everybody says he's quiet, he's moody, this and that, and he was the total opposite, a jokester, laughing, clowning around, and he made my whole camp enjoyable.
When I think of the 1980 season, the first thing that comes to mind is the first game of the season.
I was looking so forward to it. When we ran out in warm-ups, I tripped over on my warm-up pants and fell and rolled over about 3 times. And the guys all fell out laughing. But I was nervous too, but what a moment.
Service time in San Diego, 2 seconds left. The Lakers down by 1. The ball to Kareem. Swing left, skyhook.
I was able to hit a long hook shot at the buzzer to win the game. And Magic was so fired up and enthused about it. You know, he was like he had just won the world championship or won the NC2A again.
I just went crazy. I ran and jumped in his arms and hugged him. And it was just a great feeling. And then in the locker room, he says to me, he said, "Come here."
I was like, geez, we can't be at this emotional pitch for the whole season, or we won't make it to Thanksgiving.
I said, "Okay, big fella, I'm sorry." You know, I just got excited. You know, hey, Kareem hit the hook at the buzzer, and I'm going crazy. And you know, his expression was, "Hey, look, no more."
Looking back on it, that kind of set the tone for the year. So that when we were in the finals that year against Philadelphia, in Game 5 of that series, the series had been tied 2-2, and we played Game 5 in Los Angeles, and as usual, he was his normal, stellar self in terms of his performance, and he sprained his ankle, had a nasty ankle sprain in the 4th quarter, and the game was still very much undecided. He left the court, and it was like, oh, there goes the king, right?
When I went in to have my ankle looked at by the team doctors during the end of the 3rd quarter, they told me that it had not been fractured or broken, but it was the worst sprain they had ever seen. And if they taped me up, I could play again. I couldn't really injure it anymore. So I decided I could just come out and see what I could do just to keep the team in the game and maybe give them a chance to win it. Fortunately, I was able to get us over the top in that game. And, that was one that we really needed.
That was the series where we then went back to Philadelphia, and Magic Johnson made a statement to everyone by playing all 5 positions and just having a phenomenal, mind-blowing ball game. However, had we not won Game 5, the outcome could have very well been different.
I was in Boston. We had just played the Celtics, and I got a call at like 6 o'clock in the morning from the woman that I was living with telling me that my house had burned down. When I got here, 97% of the house indeed had burned down, and the only things that I had were what I brought with me on the road. It was a very shocking experience.
And it was very devastating, for him and all of us. And then when I spoke to him later, and that same day, he was upset, but he said there was only material things, and he was so happy that no one got hurt.
I learned a lot about the things that we all strive to own. They're just things. You can't take them with you, and they're nice, but they don't make your life great. And that was a very hard lesson to learn, but it was necessary. I'd never thought of myself as being materialistic, but when you're faced with losing everything you own, it's easy to find out exactly where you stand in that respect. People heard about the loss of my books and records and tried to help me replace it. I just really received a lot from people that I never thought was there, and that really helped me adjust to what had happened and to appreciate parts of my life that I really hadn't appreciated before, and it's gotten even better since then.
Hi.
Hi.
So tell me about it.
How are you, sir?
I'm all right.
Good. Hi. You wonder why I am here, because we have a strange story together, actually. I think he's the greatest basketball player I've ever seen or played with, because one Saturday, me, you, and Neil went to Central School in Long Beach, which was the mecca for Long Island basketball players. Everybody played there. Tony Jackson from St. John's, Shelley, big names now. And we went there, and Kareem had this big Panama hat and red circular sunglasses. And we're walking on the boardwalk. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
You could jump in whenever you feel like you got something to say to me.
No, I want you to take note of the time I struck you out, though.
Okay, we'll get to that, too. I'm walking on the boardwalk, and he said, "You don't look hip enough." So I said, "Well, what do I do?" And he gave me the hat. So the hat was this big, so I looked like a mushroom cap. It didn't look good, so he gave me the glasses. So then I developed the walk, and we walked up the boardwalk, and we went on the court, and it was winner take. Winner keeps on the court. So we played for like a month and a half. And then he came over the day I graduated high school. It was a Sunday in 1965. And we had this game in our backyard. It was like stickball. Yeah. We played with a shuttlecock, right, and a little bat. So we called it Bird. So he was a big Brooklyn Dodger fan, and I was getting him nuts because I was imitating Jackie Robinson, who was a big hero for Kareem. And I had him crazy because all day I'd be going, let's see if I can still do this.
I'd like to thank Mr. Rickey, everybody with the Dodgers. It's been a great career here. I don't see me playing for the Giants, and that's why I decided to retire at this time.
So he got crazy. So now we're playing this make-believe baseball game, and I'm doing Jackie. I'm walking pigeon-toed. He's getting crazy. And he struck me out in this game. And we said to each other, he said, you want to be a baseball player, which I did at the time. And he said, well, good luck to you. And I said to him, I think you got a shot at making the pros, in basketball. And he said, well, I don't know. Yeah, I'm thinking about, pre-law. So 20-something years later, we're also here, and we're also one time in the locker room at Dodger Stadium playing in the celebrity game.
That's when it was.
Right. So we're autographing these baseballs for kids in the clubhouse, and I looked over to them, and here we are, co-captains, rival captains of these celebrity teams going to play, and we're playing baseball after all. And I looked up at him, I said,
I'd like to thank Mr. Rickey and the Dodgers.
And he laughed the same laugh. All right, I got to go.
Well, it was nice seeing you.
Nice to see you.
4 on the clock, 3 on the clock. Into Kareem. He shoots a 15-foot skyhook and hits it.
Kareem Skyhook is, to me, synonymous with the cruise missile. There's only one of them. And when we get in dire straits, you'll see Irvin Johnson or myself do one thing, and that is put the fist in the air. When we put the fist in the air, that ball goes down into number 5, and we like to run the play this way, where Irvin Johnson dribbles out. We put Kareem in the low post, Byron Scott, A.C. Green, and James Worthy, and we isolate him down in a position that he's owned now for 20 years. Good crisp pass. Irvin will spot to the corner. Scott cuts through. AC cuts through, trying to get constant motion to keep the defense aware of the players that they're playing. And Kareem has the ability to operate here. And what we do like to see is him come across that lane for the most incredible, unique shot in the history of the NBA, the skyhook. And you don't need to do too much more for him. Just give him the ball, get out of his way. He's made me a great coach.
The name Skyhook was probably thought up by Eddie Doucette, who wanted to describe my shot to the fans that were listening on radio in Milwaukee. And that's his little gift to my game. I shot it while I was in the sky, so that's how he described it.
What kind of underscores it, when the Lakers were playing in Indiana and he was being honored as part of the farewell tour. And it was a great ceremony, which he deserves. But the fans wanted to see the Skyhook one last time live in living color. And so Magic, once again, makes his patented pass into the big fella, and he whirls around and bam, he made it. It's so much a part of him. He can make it in his sleep.
Well, we were playing in Vegas, and he was about to break the scoring record. And of course, I was on the bench, and I said, hey, no way is nobody else gonna ever throw this ball out to Kareem. As much as I've been through with him, I'm gonna be the one who get this assist, and we're gonna break the record together.
And Magic delivered it to him again, as he has done always in the past, at his favorite spot. And he made and broke the record, with his hook, and there was no other way. We said, we don't want you to take any jump shots or no layups. You got to make a sky hook. And he made about a 17-footer to do it.
That's it. It says to Kareem, come on down here, big fella, put in a chair. The crowd stands for Kareem to get the ball. Everybody's waving their arms. It's into Kareem. Kareem swing left, right hand, 12-footer, good! The pictures tell the words. They love their captain. They love their leader. And suffice to say, ladies and gentlemen, the new king of scoring has ascended his throne.
In '85, a lot of people had thought that he should have retired then. The public perception was that he had played too long then. He was 38, 37 years old at that time. And I recall the Memorial Day Massacre, which is a game that we lost on national television, 148-114. It was the first game of that series. After we had spent the whole year trying to get back from what happened to us in '84, when we choked away a 7-game series to him. And when we got beat on national television, I thought that this team had finally placed its back against the proverbial wall.
My play really was terrible, and it went down throughout all the levels of the team, and no one really was able to do their game, to play their game the way they should have.
The 9 years this team has been together, I really feel that there was one monumental, backs against the wall breakthrough game to find out exactly who this team was, and that was Game 2 of 1985. Kareem had had a horrible first game. He was blamed by the press for losing the game, that Parrish and McHale had dominated him. The press was mocking him. They told him that he had played too long, he should have retired. It was really embarrassing, but you know, Kareem's gone through that so many times before.
Kareem is a quiet leader. He's a leader by example. He doesn't talk and say a lot until it's time. Boston series where we wasn't playing well in one game, he just stood up and said what was on his mind, got us going.
You look at Kareem and you say, hey, you know, we're going into this fight with the best. His intensity on his face, his seriousness, and his body language, you can really tell that, hey, you know, we have a great leader here.
That second game was the most important game in the history of this team, and he came back in game 2, 37 points, 17 rebounds, 6 block shots, led us to victory in that game, and then the third game he had 31 points, 14 rebounds, and totally dominated play for their out. That was our greatest moment. You know, I wear a ring, and the ring that I wear of the 6 that I own is the one in '85 because it's symbolic of a team that really broke through. After 8 consecutive World Championship losses to the Celtics, we finally found a way to beat that team, and that's when this team became truly great.
To be the key ingredient in that final breakthrough was really very gratifying. That has to be my highlight as a professional basketball player.
Five championships in this decade. 3 out of 4, and the coveted back-to-back. Those are the statistics that define the dominant NBA team of the decade and one of the greatest in NBA history.
I thought winning back-to-back championships was really something that the whole team and front office, the people in management and the team, they were all a part of that. I think it reflected the wisdom that Jerry West had in drafting and making trades, and I think it reflected our consistency and our ability to constantly get ready and do what we had to do to win. We're the only team in Los Angeles history to win world championship back-to-back, and I think it's something that the whole city has gotten behind and is proud of, and it's really made us a part of LA.
He's been a remarkable player, not only for his greatness, but for his consistency and his durability. There may not ever be one like him again.
He'll go into the folklore with Babe Ruth, Pele, you know, that upper pantheon of excellence.
It's been 2 decades that you know, we've been together and played against one another and played with one another, coaching the whole thing. And to see him go just sort of puts you in this timeless situation. You never think that it was going to end. You'd always think that Kareem would be here, and then he will walk away and he will be gone and he will never be replaced.
We're going to miss his knowledge. We're going to miss his character, his personality. He's just a special person, and I don't think we're going to really appreciate him till he's gone.
It's hard to imagine the Lakers without him. And it's sort of a scary feeling. You know, I've been with him now, this be 10 years, and you come attached. That last day, you'll hug and cry, and everybody say their goodbyes, but when you say it, you'll know it's like forever. And that's what really gets you. And so this is tough, because I become more than his teammate. We become special friends.
To make sure this is it. Isn't that great? Smile on the face.
Looking back on my life, I chose a certain path, and people know that I've been sincere and tried to live it according to real values that I really believed in. And because of that, I don't have any regrets about that. I can look back on my career and say I gave it my best shot, and I achieved more than I ever thought I could, and be very pleased with that, and I can let that go and see what the rest of life has to offer.